You are live.
Good evening and welcome to the City of Annapolis Board of Appeal for February 16th, 2022. This is being broadcast on the City of Annapolis's YouTube channel. My name is Christian Zazali and I'm acting chair of the Board of Appeals. This virtual format allows the public to observe the meeting through the video link and submit written comments through the City of Annapolis website. Links to the YouTube channel, the comment forum, and the city's database for case information may be found on the agenda for tonight's meeting. The people that you see before you on the screen are the members of the Board of Appeal. When a case is called, the representatives of the parties the case will also appear on screen. Also participating in the meeting are the counsels to the Board of Appeals, Cheryl Woods, who we are waiting on, but we will go on until she gets here, our recording secretary, Kim Consoli, and our technician who will be managing the broadcast of the meeting. There also may be from time to time other representatives of the city, including the city's assistant attorney, Joel Braithwaite, counsel of the Department of Planning and Zoning, Jackie Rouse, liaison to the board, and one or more other members of the planning staff. We ask anyone but the board to mute their audio. If anyone has any wish to speak during the meeting, please raise your virtual hand and we will call on you before you speak. Written comments on matters before the board tonight were submitted up until noon today, and I think we have a few to open the case back up and readmit that evidence or those opinions. Were made part of the record. I've been forwarded to the Board of Appeals parties advanced to this meeting. And with that, we will turn to our agenda and call the meeting into order. Kimberly, will you call the roll?
Yes, sir. Mr. Zazali.
Here.
Dr. Chen.
Present.
Mr. Walsh.
Present.
Mr. Burnett.
Here.
Mr. Gallagher.
Present.
Mr. Gallagher. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Don't have Mr. Dews. Are we not expecting him?
Don't think we are.
Okay.
Mr. Gallagher, our normal chair, is acting as a standard board member for the purpose of today's meeting. He has read in and observed all necessary evidence and testimony from the previous February 1st hearing, and he is permitted to deliberate and participate in the hearings going forward, but will not act in his traditional capacity as chair. We have an agenda before the board. Do we have any comments on the agenda?
It's beautiful.
Okay, I will take that as a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor of agenda as submitted? Aye.
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 Okay. We do have one new business before the board. This is a second extension request to special exception 2020-02. Is Mr. Dales on the line?
Christian, did you want to do the minutes?
Oh, did I have? Yes, I do. I skipped that. Sorry. I have my agenda handwritten here. I didn't have a chance to print it. The minutes were distributed during the week. Have the Board of Appeals members of the board had a chance to review the meetings as they were submitted?
Yes.
Any comments?
None.
And may I have a motion?
I move the minutes for February 1st be adopted as written.
Second?
Second.
Anyone? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Minutes will be admitted as such. Our new business is, as I stated, is a second extension request to a special exception 20002. Mr. Dales, we've read your letter. You are entitled to a second extension. The burden for the second is slightly higher than the first. We invite any additional information that you think we should know before we act upon our decision.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The letter, I think, states our reasons for the request. As you know, this was a new entity coming in to take advantage of this special exception approval. And so there was a little bit of extra transition time demand in addition to the COVID demands with dealing with the contractors getting into the space. We're very confident that this will be open for spring. It's just we need this second request to get us to that point.
Okay. Can we, for the record, have the date of the second extension expires so we can get that entered?
Yes.
We make a ruling.
So the August 4th, 2020 was the opinion and order. On July 6th, we submitted our first request, had a public hearing on September 7, 2021. The board granted the first 6-month request, and this is our second. So 6 months from September 7th, 2021 would have been the expiration, which takes us to the 3rd month of this year. So during March the 7th.
So you're asking for 6 months beyond March 7th, is that correct?
Correct. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any members of the board have anything to add before we make this decision? No? Okay. I think it's the acting chair's discretion. We will grant this second extension. Understand that if you do go beyond that date without showing good progress, you will lose the special exception and have to begin the process again.
Thank you.
Okay.
With the board's permission, I will write that up and sign it on your behalf. Is that acceptable, Mr. Zazali?
That's acceptable to me. Have others? Anybody care? No? Good. Okay. Perfect. Next item before us is we will open up public hearing, special exception 2021005 for the purpose of admitting the additional written comments. Have the board had a chance to review those additional comments? Okay.
Yeah.
So we will enter those as whatever the next number is. Kim, you got that? Kimber?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and with that, we will, I guess I need a refresher here. We close it back again and open it up for deliberation. Is that the correct standard there? Thank you. Bob's nodding his head. So with that, we will close the public portion of the hearing 005 and move into board deliberation on this. This is, for those who forgot, this is the Iron Rooster expansion down on City Dock. I will open it up to whomever wishes to speak first. Well, I guess I could open up to Bob, since he's our.
Yeah, from my review of the file and viewing the tapes, it looks to me like they've covered the criteria adequately, and I'd be in favor of granting it.
Anyone else?
Echo Bob's comments.
Yep. I think it's a nice opportunity. I know that area down there is very challenging from a trash management and collection perspective. I think it's a nice opportunity for the business operator to work with the new trash collection company and the architects and design team to come up with a solution. It's always, I hate to think that hiring a new trash company is the solution to a trash problem, because we don't know that they know anything that the old people don't know. But this, I think there's an opportunity. Your plans you addressed it adequately, and I think for all the reasons in the staff report and the public and your architect submitted plans and stated here this evening, I would agree that it's right. I would be in favor of it for it. So do we have any other deliberation? Does the board wish to deliberate any further?
I would just like to add, Mr. Chairman, that I think it's a very good thing that they are able to occupy vacant space. I know that people are concerned with the number of vacant shops downtown. So I am also in favor of this special exception.
Okay, so hearing from a minor majority of the board, I will entertain a motion then.
Move that the application be granted for the reasons stated in the staff recommendation and attachments, and based on the additional evidence that we heard at the hearing 2 weeks ago.
Second.
Second.
All in favor of approving the special exception?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, good luck. We applaud your success and we wish you ongoing and continued success.
Thank you all very much. Good night.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate your time.
Okay. Our next matter before the board is reopening 106 Annapolis Street. in West Annapolis. This was Kevin's. Did we get, I think we had some additional comments, Kevin. Do we need to admit some?
Yes, Kevin Scott, Senior Planner for Planning and Zoning. No additional written exhibits from the city. As far as from the applicant, I did send over the affidavits for the posting, the notification, and the newspaper ad, just for the record, but no other exhibits from the applicant. And then there were 5 more comments from public testimony in addition to the ones that were previously sent. So there's a total of 14 public comments.
And do we have our rubric on that? Do we have our scorecard?
The tally of the 5, there was 1 in opposition, and well, I don't know if it was opposition, but concern about parking and the need. And then the 4 were overwhelming support. So for total, I think we're like 11 in support and 3 were concerned with like the comment thread was like the parking issues, right, and concerned that the parking would end up in the residential neighborhood.
And that tends to, that is not a new concern for any restaurant that comes before this board for a special exception. And we do spend a lot of our time, maybe misplaced time, trying to solve the parking problem on behalf of our fellow citizens. I read something the other day that there's at least discussion in front of the city alderman to remove that requirement. It'll be interesting to see how the effect that has on our board and matters exactly like this one, and the public's ability to weigh in. And would we take testimony if it's no longer a requirement, right? That would become a kind of a interesting line of discussion for another time. And thank you, Kevin, for that. So with that, with no other evidence to admit or opinion or public testimony to admit, we will close special exception 2021-00C7 for 106 Annapolis Street and open it up for any deliberation by board members as they see fit.
Well, I'll go first again. Subject to hearing from my colleagues on the board, I intend to vote in favor of the application. But as the acting chair mentioned, I too have a concern about the parking issues, and I would just like to make an observation and a suggestion. This case caused me to go back and review the comprehensive plan. And West Annapolis, including this site, I believe, are part of an opportunity zone. And as a result of that, it's encouraged that we have infill and mixed use development. And this is exactly that. It also recognizes, the comprehensive plan does, I think, that with growth and the growth that's expected and limited ability to fund improvements in transport and parking infrastructure that would keep up with that growth, the comprehensive plan looks for ways to encourage a shift, a gradual shift to alternate forms of transportation. And so that comprehensive plan, including that intended shift, is something that was debated by our citizens and approved by their representatives on the city council. And it all sounds great until it impacts you. But that's what we've got. And as the acting chair mentioned, like other cities, we're now considering reducing parking requirements. And it has happened elsewhere. So that, I think that's the direction we're headed. It's a transition that is going to cause discomfort for some people who commented on parking problems in West Annapolis already. So I think while we are committed to make that transition, we're required to. Our job is to apply the comprehensive plan. all of us, the applicants, the planning and zoning department, all of us would do well to look for ways to make that transition easier for people. So without proposing any specific conditions on this one, I would urge the applicants and the staff to think about ways that that can be done. Can we have an arrangement where employees park off-site in some place to be unused when they'd be parking? Can the applicant offer parking to residents if they can't find some other place from, say, 10 at night until 10 in the morning or something like that? I don't have the answers, but I would encourage applicants and the Department of Planning and Zoning to look for ways to make this inevitable transition a little easier on those most affected. That's all.
Thank you, Bob. Well said. Anyone else?
Chairman, I agree with Bob. A couple of issues that we asked during the hearing. One was the street that's going to be the main street right now. It's an unimproved street. It's a dirt road basically, and the applicant responded, and as did the city, that there'd be a plan that would make that street usable for the restaurant and for its patrons, as well as for deliveries, to my satisfaction. So I just wanted to say that meets my satisfaction. But to the point, the second issue is the point that Bob raised, which is I would join with Bob to encourage the applicant to try to find solutions. We asked at the hearing, and Kevin, let us know what the requirements are for parking for a facility like this, and they meet that criteria in the city's ordinance, in the city's code. But also, I would, with 128 patrons seats, there's going to be some impact in that area, and I would certainly encourage Mr. Rumpke, given that he has property in that area, the possibility of shared parking as is used in Eastport specifically for some of the restaurants down there and in other parts of the city. So I agree with Bob and would emphasize his call for helping the residents deal with the parking issues.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Dr. Chen, Mr. Burdett.
In the last meeting, Mr. Co-Chair, I think you raised a really important point. When we have these cases, we typically know who is going to be the running of the restaurant, the owner, and we have an idea of who they are, how they run their business, and so on. I believe in this situation, the restaurant has yet to be identified. And you had suggested in the last meeting that the conditions that are set forth in the special exception somehow legally be carried over in perhaps the lease to the ultimate restaurateur. I would like to re-raise that. I thought that was a really good idea, since we do not know who's going to be operating the business. And with regard to the parking, I also agree with my fellow members. I'm not really sure if there's anything we can do, if we can require shared parking, or maybe we should discuss that more. It's a lot of seats. Should it be a requirement that this road that leads to the parking area be finished and readily usable as a requirement for this special exception?
Thank you, Dr. Chen. I'll just take those separately. The first one first. The conditions that are set forth within the requirements of the special exception are not unique to this operator. And we do always approve or grant or deny special exceptions based on the knowledge that the special exception stays with the property, right? That the operator today, there's no guarantee that it's going to be a day, a week, a month, or eternity. So we do that with our eyes open, but we do usually have an idea of who the operator is being, and that got me to that thinking. The requirements or the conditions that are set forth by the city, it was my request that the ones that are specific to the operating of a restaurant and not zoning or boilerplate special exception requirements be communicated, and they should survive a lease, right? They should be in the landlord's rules and regulations for 106 Annapolis Street, right? So that no matter who moves in or operates, the leases can come and go, but baked into the constitution of the address, how the trash gets taken out, what obligation there is to do with the trash. It aligns with the city's requirements. There isn't a gap. We hate, in the legal world, we hate gaps. We want continuity. We want the same language in the rules that are in the special exception that are in the Board of the zoning's expectation. And the applicant, Mr. Rumke, did agree. And I don't know if it's Kevin, is this something that you feel you and the applicant can get correct, or do we need to get it right here tonight?
Yeah, Christian, this is Jackie.
Oh.
Okay, let me just say, with special exceptions, when there's an application for permits for that, and the part of that process is the use permit process, the applicants are given a copy of whatever special exception approval goes with that property, and they have to either agree, they, as part of that process, have to agree to all the conditions. And we check if a business is sold and there's a new tenant, we check to make sure that they are in compliance, the new tenant would be in compliance with the existing conditions. So that's
and that may be enough. I can see that is how it has been done and is done since at least all the years that I've been doing this, and that may be enough. And there may be nothing unique about this situation that the operator is unknown to this board. It's just the first time that I've considered a special exception by right for a restaurant, a standard restaurant, without actually knowing who the operator was. So maybe it's my own.
Well, that is a unique situation, but the extension request that you had tonight was for the operator of that restaurant, who was not the original applicant. He was someone who the business was sold to, and he's applying for all the permits, but he wasn't the original applicant, and it does happen.
Yeah, sure.
So I think there's a difference in my mind between owner and a lessee. Now, one option may be that the owner who holds the special exception is obligated to at least provide to the lessee a copy of the special exception and the requirements that come with it.
I think that's a standard part of the process, Nadine. And
is it
yeah,
standard for a lease? I'm not sure.
Well, we deal. Okay, so in most cases with restaurants, what happens is that you have the business owner and the property owner, and you have co-applicants. Sometimes you only have one, but in most cases they're two different entities, and that's why we require them to be co-applicants on any projects, because the special exception will run with the land. But when, and say the property owner is probably not going to do the tenant fit out for this restaurant. That would be really unusual for them to do that, because most restaurant owners want to even if there's already an approval in place, they want to design their own interior space. So they will be the applicant for the permits. And as part of that process, we would go over the special exception requirements with them and make sure there are some requirements that have to be met, say during the permit review process, like where is this and where is that? There are some that have to be met when you get to the end of the process before you get as part of getting your use permit. But we do track that and make sure it's all done, if that helps. And I think there are some requirements with this that you discussed, like the paving of the road, and Kevin can address this more fully. I think that's a requirement that was of the project approval, which was a separate process that was approved by the planning commission. So, but so I think everything is kind of locked down.
Very helpful. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Yeah, and I guess that's just that what happens after it leaves us is a little opaque, and that's, I mean, some less opaque on the building side of things, and some more on the business license of a restaurant. I do want to say that I applaud the work that this developer is doing. That area has seen years of minor redevelopment, if you will, the repurpose of residential properties and reuse of, clever, adaptive reuses of different things. I think it represents a good sign that they've retained a competent design team who understands the aesthetic of the neighborhood, who are bringing in significant capital improvement to build a proper standard restaurant, as opposed to another snack bar, coffee bar kind of entity. I think it will represent a significant elevation of the vibrance of Annapolis Street after hours, something that has been lacking. And I think Bob pointed out that it is recognized as an opportunity portion of West Annapolis. And that's all I have to say. If anybody else has anything else, we'll keep going.
I reviewed the staff report. I was present for the testimony. I've heard what everyone said, and I appreciate Jackie's expertise in the area to provide a little bit more clarity on some of those, because I was going to echo that same thought that Dr. Chen raised and Christian raised. So with Jackie's expertise, I feel comfortable with where we're at.
Okay. Are we ready for a motion? Mr. Walsh, can we rely on you?
You sure can, I hope. So, Mr. Chairman, I move that the application, the SE 2021-007 be approved. It has met the requirements of granting of a special exception. In the approval, I would ask that the staff's recommendations in its staff report are included in the final approval of the special exception.
Okay.
Second.
All right. All in favor of approving the special exception as set forth in the application?
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations, Mr. Rumpke. Good luck with your venture.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Give our regards to Leo.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Is there any more business before the board this evening?
Christian,
for the next calendar. Jackie,
Christian,
you want to talk
Christian, I think you did it. If I keep running the clock out, I will keep you from breaking my record of 30
Trying to get to
minutes.
7:30.
Well, I could say I don't care what the calendar is for the next meeting and adjourn. I think it's prudent to ask. This is a short month. March will be here before we know it.
I think,
Jackie,
I'm not sure we're going to need to have a meeting on March 1st. I'm not sure that anybody has scheduled anything on the agenda, and I will send you an email tomorrow about that.
Very good.
Sounds good to me.
Bob, be safe, travel back at your leisure.
Thanks.
Can I
Thank
have a
you all.
motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Second, so moved. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.